interest there would be. So let me introduce myself, and actually I'm going to start using the video function just to start, but I'll turn that off pretty quickly. No need to continue to look at my ugly mug here. But so I'm John Copans. I am a new member of the team here at the Vermont Council on Rural Development, and embarking on a new program here. We are calling it the Climate Economy Model Community Program. And the purpose of this webinar is really to give an overview of that program, a little bit of context for the program, and then to field questions from potential applicants regarding the program and the application process. So, and at this point, the way we will field those questions is through the chat function that hopefully many of you have up. It's on the sort of the left-hand side at the bottom here. I'll just write a message just to show that working. So people should feel free to submit questions there. So let me just start with a little overview of this program and where it comes from. This is a partnership with the Council on Rural Development, Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, Vermont Electric Co-op, Washington Electric Co-op. We also are in touch with the organization VIPSA that represents the municipal utilities here in Vermont as well. And this really comes out of, well, and let me just mention who is supporting this program as well. At this point, we have support to do this program for 3 years. We will, at least starting this year, we will select 2 communities to work in 2017, and then we'll reissue an RFP to solicit applications to participate in the program for 2018 and 2019. And I just want to acknowledge the very generous support we are receiving to enable this program. VLIGHT, Vermont Low Income Trust for Electricity, is a major supporter. The High Meadows Fund, and of course VCRD's generous members are also supporting this program. So let me just run through the agenda for this webinar. I'm going to provide a little bit of context for what we are going to cover today, and then give a sort of a process overview for the program, review the application form, review the criteria for selection and the timeline for 2017. As I noted at the beginning, please feel free to weigh in with any questions via the chat function that's at the bottom left here. So please do not hesitate just at any time to ask questions. I may not answer those right away. I may queue them up for the end, or I may address them at the moment. So just send questions along at any point here. The other thing I would emphasize is I am very much available to field questions about this program at any time. My contact information was on that first screen. It will also be on the last screen, so please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm also willing to travel if it's helpful as you are engaging your community in the possibility of participating in this program. I'm happy to come sit down with community members to talk about the potential for this program. I see a couple of quick questions here. We are recording this webinar and we'll post it to our website so that it will be available afterwards for anyone interested. We also will make the slideshow, the presentation, available afterwards as well. You know, for phone callers to participate, we will have a question and answer section at the end, and I think what I will do is I will turn on the audio for the Q&A section at the end, and I think I will be able to acknowledge and recognize callers at that point. I am a little wary about running into technical difficulties once we start the two-way audio, but I will do that at the end for folks who are on the phone call to participate as well. So at this point, I will proceed now with the presentation. Again, thank you so much all for joining. So in 2015, the Vermont Council on Rural Development convened what was called the Vermont Climate Change Economy Council. As you can see here, there was a very diverse group of stakeholders that convened over 2 years, really intensively over a 1-year process. There was a number of public forums, 2 significant statewide summits that happened. The effort was chaired by Judge Sessions, and there was the issuing of a report and an action plan. That actually is available on our website. One of the recommendations in that action plan was to establish this climate economy model communities program. So that was the genesis for what we are embarking on at this point. And I think, you know, one of the participants in that summit, venture capitalist Danny Kennedy, talked about this transition we are in, the sort of global energy transition we are in is going to be one of the biggest economic transitions our world has ever experienced. And what the Climate Change Economy Council really emphasized is that Vermont has a unique opportunity to sort of participate in that economic transition and to capitalize on that economic transition for the benefit of our communities, for the benefit of Vermonters. So I want to give you a little bit of context about what that economic opportunity looks like. Vermonters spend something over $2 billion every year on petroleum-based fuels. And if we think about it, we do not have native to Vermont any of those fuel sources. So that means that the bulk of those dollars are flowing out of the state of Vermont. Another way to think about this is on the household level. And actually, VEIC and Efficiency Vermont published in the middle of last year a really excellent study on the average energy burden for Vermonters. And as you can see from this slide, an average Vermont household pays something close to $5,000 annually on their energy costs. And that number actually varies significantly from one community to the next, depending on what the fuel sources are in that community, what the electric rates might be, and how much transportation they need to utilize in that community and what their options are for transportation. But as you see, as an average, over 52% of those energy costs for a typical household are on transportation, and then the remainder is split pretty evenly between electricity and thermal energy. And this sort of brings me to an important point on this, this program, which is that it will be focused on communities, but really also focused on homes and businesses that make up that community. When you think about the economic health and vitality of a community, it's very much made up, obviously, of the economic health of the institutions, the businesses, the households, the renters, the landlords. That all makes up the economic health of a community. So an emphasis of this program will really be identifying opportunities both on the community level, but also on the household and business level for how we use our resources more efficiently and where there is economic opportunity in transitioning to new energy sources and using our energy sources more efficiently. So one of the things, another example of the economic opportunity that is represented by the transition to a climate economy is the job growth we have seen in the last 4 years in the clean energy economy. As this slide points out, we currently have over 17,500 jobs in the state of Vermont working in some way related to the clean energy economy. That's both in the renewable energy industry, that's in the biomass industry, that is in the energy efficiency industry, right? So what this shows is that there really is an economic opportunity here, and there are real jobs being created in Vermont in this clean energy economy. One of the things that the Climate Economy Council really focused on is what assets we already have to build upon here in Vermont. And this is actually not a comprehensive list, but it's helpful to think about what sets Vermont apart in the climate economy space, and what do we have here in Vermont that we can leverage on. As an example, the legislature 2 years ago passed a renewable energy standard that really is pioneering in the country. In particular, what is unique about that renewable energy standard is it requires our utilities to help their customers transition off of fossil fuels. This is called the Energy Transformation Program, also commonly known as Tier 3. That is an important policy development here in Vermont, and actually, in many ways, I think the Climate Economy Program, Model Communities Program, will likely work with the programs that are coming out of the Tier 3 initiative. Another thing we have in Vermont is our smart grid, right? We received $69 million in ERA funding, matched by our utilities, to install smart meters in about over 90% of the households in the state of Vermont. And we also have a comprehensive fiber optic backbone for the grid that covers the state of Vermont as well. We have our Working Lands Initiative here in Vermont, a growing appreciation for the value of local food production and our forested landscape. We have a Green Mountain Power covering 75% of our state ratepayers that really is a pioneer. You know, I used to work at the Public Service Department, and when you talk to other states about what their utilities, how their utilities act, and how they are resistant to change, you really gain an appreciation for Green Mountain Power's innovative approach in both embracing distributed electric generation and also in helping their customers think about the energy transformation opportunity. Also in Vermont, of course, we have Efficiency Vermont. It is not typical in other states that you create what we have in Vermont, which is an energy efficiency utility. Its sole job is to help Vermonters save energy. We have a comprehensive energy plan in Vermont that has set the goal of 90% renewable energy across all sectors by 2050. We have 2 utilities in this state that are already 100% renewable, Burlington Electric Department and the Washington Electric Co-op. I think it's also important to acknowledge that when we embark on this Model Communities program, we are building on the great work that has happened in so many other initiatives and is happening in so many other initiatives. So you see a list here. We've got the Solar City in Rutland. We've got the Net Zero initiatives in Burlington and Montpelier. We have the great work that NeighborWorks of Western Vermont has done with their Heat Squad, the Solarize and Weatherize programs of Vital Communities, the Efficiency Vermont and the Department of Housing and Community Development's Targeted Communities program, the program in Panton called Evolve, that's a collaboration of Green Mountain Power and Efficiency Vermont, and then of course VCAN and the network, the great network of town energy committees we have in the state of Vermont. Those are all tremendous assets, and as we build this Model Communities program, we are very much trying to build it from the collective learning that has happened in those various initiatives. You know, finally, we're ranked 3rd in the country in per capita solar jobs. That's a good measure of just the economic potential, and we have passed in Vermont a universal recycling law that again is leading the nation by requiring the elimination of organic material from landfills by 2050. As you see from this asset list, when we talk about the climate economy, and actually let me go to the next slide, it's important to sort of think about what falls under that umbrella. What are we talking about when we talk about the climate economy? Obviously, we're talking about energy. We're talking about renewable energy generation and storage. We're talking about efficiency in our buildings and our workplaces. We're talking about efficient building construction. We're very much talking about transportation systems, right? If you look at that, the energy costs for the average Vermonter, over 50% of that on transportation fuels. And then if you look at Vermont's overall state contribution to greenhouse gases, transportation again makes up a substantial portion of those contributions. We're talking about working lands. We're talking about recycling, reuse, and renewal of resources. We're talking about the preservation of buildings and smart growth development in our downtowns. We're talking about the low impact and innovation-based economic development, the digital economy, arts and the creative economy, and we're talking about outdoor recreation and tourism. All of those things fall under this rubric that we are calling the climate economy. We also, I would say, it is embedded in so much of what's going on economically in this state. You know, when you talk to any manufacturer in this state, they are thinking about their energy efficiency, they're thinking about their energy production, they're thinking about their use of materials and how to use materials more efficiently. So it's very much embedded in so much of what's going on in terms of Vermont's economic activity. So now I'm going to transition to talk a little bit about what this program, how this program will work, and the process that we are talking about here. And to do that, I want to actually pause and talk a little bit about the Vermont Council on Rural Development and how it has worked in Vermont for the last well over a decade now. Some of the folks on this webinar may be familiar with the community visit process that VCRD really has led in dozens of communities around the state of Vermont. And what VCRD does is that they are a neutral facilitator that brings a community together and facilitates a community conversation to identify, 3 to 5 community initiatives that community wants to take on, and helps them build task forces and engage with experts in order to turn those ideas and those projects into a reality. So let me just run through how, and this is the similarity between the community visit process and our model community program, is this process that I will describe here. What we will do in a community is we will start by forming a steering committee, a group of 20 to 25 community members who will really be our key community partner as we engage this effort. They will help us brainstorm some of the themes for our program Kickoff. They will help us with the outreach to spread the word to the community. A big part of the success of this program is going to be how well we do at engaging the community as a whole, and a broad, diverse group of stakeholders in that community. And the steering committee is really essential in helping to do that. Then we move on to a kickoff of the program. And this really is 2 things. One is it will be a series of community forums or focus groups where there is a brainstorming of ideas, and then it also is an opportunity to come together for a community meal. And let me just pause here and talk a little bit about the visiting team that really is an important part of this program, and it's also an important part of the community visit program as well. And that is that as part of this climate economy model communities program, we are building a list of visiting team and potential visiting team members. And what they represent is really statewide experts in the field. As an example, we might have, in addition to our partners, I should say, which are Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, and local utilities, they will certainly be part of that visiting team. But others might be, USDA Rural Development has some great energy programs. The Department of Public Service and their Clean Energy Development Fund. Drive Electric Vermont that helps think about the use of electric vehicles across the state. AARP that's very much thinking about transportation issues. Local Motion that's thinking about how we get around our communities by foot and on bicycle. maybe some renewable energy developers, SunCommon or Encore redevelopment. Those all are examples of the type of experts and resources that we will bring in as the visiting team for that kickoff. They will participate in those conversations, and really a lot of their role for that first meeting, that program kickoff, will be to listen and then to sort of reflect back a little bit of what they heard and to help brainstorm ideas for a community that they want to take on. So then the next step is, if we move on to sort of month 3, the next step is to gather together as a community to really prioritize. What will come out of the kickoff is a list of potential ideas, 20 to 30 ideas of initiatives that a community might want to take on. Maybe it's a new bike path. Maybe it is a new downtown co-working space. Maybe it's thinking creatively about some carpooling options or a rural jitney service or something like that. All of those ideas will get sort of put on the wall and championed at this meeting of the community, and the community will come together and pick some initiatives to focus on. And not only will they pick initiatives at that meeting in the 3rd month, they will also sign up for task forces to really become the working team to turn those initiatives into projects. Then in month four, those task forces will convene on those 3 to 5 initiatives, and we will re-engage the visiting team. We will sort of transition it from becoming the visiting team to the resource team, and that's where, depending on what task forces are working on, what initiatives that the community has selected, we will bring in the experts to work on those efforts, right? So if maybe a community wants to do a community renewable energy project, then we will bring in some statewide experts who can help a community both strategically plan for that initiative and then identify resources to turn that initiative into a reality. And then finally, in the sort of remaining part of the program is really about implementation. Again, continuing to work in those task forces to turn those potential initiatives into reality. And then very much as part of this program, we want to celebrate what the community achieves and to promote the great work of the community. So that's a general overview. Now I've got a couple more slides that sort of present another picture of this process. This next one helps just to show how really what you're going from is the steering committee helps to develop themes for the conversation, and then at the community forums you turn those themes into a set of specific ideas, and then when the committee reconvenes, they set priorities, and then you choose a set of initiatives, right? So you go from themes to ideas to specific initiatives that the community has selected as priorities. An important distinction between this model community program and VCRD's community visit program is that it will also work on a second track. And this next slide, and I'm a little sensitive to how busy this next slide is, so don't be overwhelmed by it. But this next slide really shows that this process will work on 2 tracks. The blue track is the one I've already described, where the community comes together to prioritize some community initiatives that they are going to work on. The orange track that you see here is also an important part of this program, is really focusing on homes, businesses, and other institutions in a community and efforts that they can take on at the home level and the business level. And this is really where our partners at Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, and our local utilities will be key to making this happen, okay? So what will happen is Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power will will really partner with the steering committee and with us here at VCRD to really think about what are some efforts that can be engaged at the home and business level. Maybe it is a program where we are working with homeowners to comprehensively think about energy efficiency and retrofitting that home so it's using less energy. Maybe it's thinking about energy transformation, things like a fuel pump, a cold climate heat pump, or other fuel switching opportunities. Those types of initiatives and offerings will be selected in a conversation between Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, and/or the local utility, and folks on the ground in the community. And then an effort will be embarked upon to really engage homeowners, renters, landlords, businesses in the community to avail them of that opportunity. Okay, so that will it's helpful to think of this as working on those two tracks: a track to identify community-wide initiatives, and a track to really work with homes, businesses, and other institutions in the community to think about opportunities at the homeowner level, at the renter level, at the business level that fall within this category of the climate economy. So I see a few questions here. I'm going to hold on those and I think get through. I see one in particular that leads to the next slide, which is I want to talk a little bit about the application process. I think that's probably what most folks are interested in engaging with, and so let me go to that. Let me describe what the application process is. As folks probably know, March 22nd is the deadline for applications. And in terms of who can apply for this program, we are talking about for this first year, and that's an important caveat. For the first year, we have limited the participation to towns ranging in size from 1,000 to 10,000 in population. And I say for the first year because this is a brand new program, and we feel like that size is probably the right one for the first year, but we're definitely going to revisit that criteria in future years. Another point to make is that the municipality itself, and when I say municipality, I mean the select board or the mayor perhaps, need not be the lead on the application, but it is important for the municipality, the elected leaders of a community, to indicate that they support taking on this effort, right? So it may be that there are other citizens in a community that really are going to coordinate this effort and take the lead, and that is okay. In fact, that's great, but we do think it's important to have a municipality say formally, whether it's a select board or a mayor, say via a letter or some show of support that yes, they are willing and interested in engaging in this process. Finally, a question that we've gotten as we've rolled out the RFP is, can more than one town join together to submit a joint application? And you see my response there, which is that is possible. We're not saying an outright no to that. I think what we would want to see, well, let me just say what VCRD, in their experience with community visits, in order to get engagement, the best engagement from a community, organizing these at the town level has been most effective. People sort of identify themselves with their town, and they are more likely to participate with their town. So on the other hand, maybe there is some other jurisdiction that goes beyond the town level that wants to apply. We are willing to entertain that possibility. As I note here, what would be helpful as part of that application is some demonstration that that multiple that those multiple jurisdictions have worked together on other projects and have a track record of working together to make things happen, and potentially have some governance structure that matches those multiple towns. So I see the letter question here about whether or not the municipal letter is one of the three letters. At this point, I think I have been assuming yes, that is one of the three letters, right? As part of the application, we require 3 letters of support, that one of those will be from the municipality itself. Perhaps we could have been a little more explicit about that, but I think that would count as one of the 3. So so now let me run through the components of the application. The first part of the application is the designation of a project lead, a town or municipal representative who will be the point of contact from the town, a business leader, and other possible steering committee members. Then there will be the narrative, which is up to 3 pages in length, and the RFP describes a little bit of what we're looking for in that narrative, and then the 3 letters of support. Honestly, our hope is that this is a relatively manageable application. We tried to keep the burden relatively low. What we really are interested in seeing in the narrative is some sense from the community of what potential they see in participating in this program. Where do they see as opportunities to advance initiatives in this climate economy space, and some vision of what the possibilities are. That does not mean you have to identify the 3 key initiatives that you expect to come out of this process. It more needs to be a high-level sense of what the potential is and what the opportunity is for that, for your community. So, as you can see, the link to the RFP is here. That, of course, is on our website. Let me go to the criteria for review. So I see a question here from Mr. McNaughton, which is this question about whether it's appropriate or not to give examples of possible projects in the support letters. I think, again, a vision for what's possible is totally appropriate. The key with this process is those initiatives need to be embraced by the community, and that we won't know that until we go through the process. And that's what makes this sort of a genuine community sort of led process, is that I think it is okay to identify possible initiatives, but the key is there need to be an understanding that those initiatives may or may not rise to the top when you engage in this process and when we really get the community thinking about what's possible. I see another question here, which is, can the initiatives be ongoing or do they need to be new ones? You know what? I think ongoing is okay. I think if you can demonstrate, what would be helpful is knowing what is the value add of participating in this program in getting an ongoing initiative, turning it from sort of where it is now to what it can become under this model communities program. It doesn't have to be that everything is brand new. Again, the one caveat I would give is it's really important that while there may be some ideas about initiatives that are going to emerge from this effort, it is going to be a genuine community conversation about what those initiatives are. And that's why, as an example, there's some temptation to sort of work with Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power and say, well, here are the three offerings for homeowners that we are going to offer as part of this program. Instead, what we are going to do is engage the community and really listen to them and think about what makes the most sense. Every community is different. Their appetite for taking on initiatives is going to be different. Some communities have a lot of rental housing. Other communities don't have a lot of rental housing. Some communities are, mostly, a significant amount of apartments. I'm emphasizing here probably a little too much that we have very much a community process that and that these initiatives will emerge from that community process. So the criteria for the applications, this reiterates what's in the RFP, but let me just sort of refresh those. Does the application demonstrate an understanding of the existing challenges and opportunities in the community that this program is designed to address? And is there some vision of where this process may lead? Does the application demonstrate support from a broad cross-section of the community? That's an important one. Both in your identification of potential steering committees and in your letters of support, what is important is some show that you have already, in the application process, engaged a diverse group of stakeholders, and those stakeholders say, yes, not only are we interested in having this process happen in our community, but ideally, yes, we want to participate in this process in our community. And then finally, I think it's important to note that I will say this sort of frankly, which is, as we embark on this process, one of the pieces of feedback I hear is that even the word climate and climate economy, that there is a sector of Vermonters who just that term may not engage them. They may think that means, only solar panels on rooftops and electric vehicles, and that's just not suitable for them or affordable for them, therefore they're really not interested in having a conversation. It is imperative for the success of this program that we get beyond only those initiatives that sort of middle and upper income Vermonters can afford, and we really need to think about all sort of economic sectors of a community. And so that's part of what we will be looking for in an application, is some understanding of how a climate economy initiative can benefit all aspects of a community, not just necessarily those that can afford it. So finally, let me run through a timeline here. And this may connect. I see a question about timing related to spring work and whatnot. We will, as I noted at the top, select 2 communities to work in 2017. And the idea is we will work in those communities sort of one after the other in terms of the intensive facilitation process. So what that means is kicking off this program in a first community in late spring. I would say sort of April. After we make the selections in April, we will begin to put that steering committee together, and we will have a community kickoff likely in late May in that first community. And then in a second community, we will begin to convene and put together that steering committee in the late summer and really start the intensive facilitation in September. So in regards to that question regarding sort of doing this in the spring, the truth is, once we select the 2 communities that we are going to work in, that's going to be one question that we come to those communities with is sort of, would you prefer to do this as a sort of summertime effort, or would you prefer to do this as a fall effort? And we're going to have to engage those communities to see what works best for them in terms of timing. And I do want to emphasize here that we are going to select additional communities to work in 2018. So we will likely go through this RFP process again in the fall of 2017 as we solicit additional applications. And depending on what we learn as we begin to do this project in communities, we will likely change the criteria for eligible communities to participate in the company. So finally, I just want to emphasize that I am very much available as part of this process to answer questions directly from folks, to field phone calls, emails. As I said at the top, I'm also willing to travel during this next few weeks as you are considering putting in an application for this program. I am at your service both to answer questions and to just help you as you think about this opportunity and what it may represent for your community. At this point, I am going to pause, I think, and see if there are other, I've created a survey, and I don't know that there's any way to make that survey available as part of the webinar, but I think what I can do is send that out to you all as participants after the fact. And so I would just ask you to look for a survey. We would love your feedback. This, I should have said at the top end of this, we will, this is my first webinar, so I really appreciate you bearing with me as I run through this presentation, and would really appreciate any feedback both on the webinar, but also some sense of the likelihood of your community to participate in the application process. I see a question here from Shannon that is an excellent question, actually. I really appreciate this question, and it actually gives me the opportunity to touch on something that I'd hoped to talk about here. So Shannon's question is, what are the responsibilities of the community lead for these projects? And I would say the responsibility will change over time. And you know what, I'm going to actually go back to the process slide to help articulate this. The community lead is really going to be helpful in forming that steering committee and sort of chairing the process. They ideally are someone who is sort of a diplomat in the community and are sort of well-known in the community and can really engage other community members in this conversation. I think they will be a key member of the steering committee and helping us both identify and convene the steering committee and then work through as we go on to the program kickoff. And then as we gather to choose priority items, the community lead will really be a key partner in helping us outreach to the community to promote these events and to encourage participation in these events. Once we select initiatives, right? Once you go from all of the different ideas and narrow it down to 3 or 4 initiatives, at that point, you really move from a steering committee to a set of task forces. And this next slide helps to show that, right? You have a steering committee that's really a core group, and the steering committee really helps with the kickoff and helps with the community forum to set priorities. But at that point, what happens is that breaks up and becomes task forces that really focus on the initiatives that are identified in the community. It is possible that the community lead has a role on one of those task forces or has a role in continuing to sort of help those task forces and serve maybe as a liaison between those task forces and VCRD and other partners. But I think really the work will focus from a community-wide effort to a task force effort after that community priority setting. The one point that I would make, and we are actually still exploring this, but typically with a community visit, the one expectation we have of the partnering community is that with the community dinner that happens as part of the kickoff, we actually ask for the community partner to both sort of cover the cost of that and to facilitate that. There are a bunch of different ways to do that community dinner. Sometimes it's a potluck. Sometimes there's an institution in the community that simply says we will host it and therefore we will sponsor it. Or maybe there's, you order a bunch of pizzas. But that is one thing we would ask from the community. The other thing we would ask for as part of this effort is that a municipality, we want one mailing to go to the entire community to spread the word about this effort. And we would ask the municipality to cover that mailing to the entire community to help that. So I see, let's see, I'm just going to pause again now and see if there are other questions. And then I think maybe what I will do is turn the audio on to see if that works for folks as well. But let me just see if anyone through the chat function has any questions. I'm scrolling back to the question about seasonal residents. How does the program, I think hopefully the way I answered that timeline question, which is one is possible over the summer and then one in the fall, maybe for a seasonal community, we might think about which of those two is the better fit, or honestly, maybe we think about 2018. If it turns out that really doing it in the middle of winter is the best for a particular community, maybe we think about how we adjust this timeline and push it into 20. Other questions? Can a front porch forum posting, front porch forum is a great tool to spread the word, and it really varies actually from one community to the next. Some communities have great participation in front porch forums, some are a little less active. I would say a mailing is important because it assures that you are giving every citizen notice about this process, and there's nothing like getting something in the mail to do that. Front porch forum, like I say, has great saturation in some communities. The other thing I would say, though, is if that mailing is really a sticking point, let's have that conversation to figure out about that. But I do think it is an important to make sure that every citizen in a community knows about this process and has the opportunity to participate. Will there be a deadline for implementing initiatives? I think if we are realistic about implementing initiatives, it takes some time, and it really depends on the initiative. Some might be relatively quick. Others, honestly, may take longer than what we have identified as the 12-month process here. We at VCRD intend to really work with the local task forces on turning those initiatives into a reality. But and it is possible that extends outside of the 12-month period. But I do think, as you all know, projects the longer it goes as a project is in formation stage, maybe it loses some momentum over time. So it's important to really be deliberate about working intensively to turn that initiative into an actual project that gets completed. Another variable is various resources that may come into play. It might be that there is a grant program or a loan program that doesn't come available at the right moment, so there's certainly are timing issues whenever you're talking about taking an initiative and really turning it into an actual project. Karen, that's a great question about funding resources. And it's actually helpful to think about the how VCRD has run its community visit process. Sort of the short answer is there are not specific sort of dollars that we bring for grants as part of this program. Instead, what we bring is partners who often have purview over those programs. And we really, I would say it's about two things. One is, and I know this from my old work, I spent 8 years working for Congressman Welch, and what we would see is when a community comes together around a project and really rallies and there is community buy-in for the project, it actually is much easier to identify potential financial resources for a project. Funders are always wary about the support of projects that don't have that community buy-in, right? So we actually believe that the neutral facilitation process that really helps to build community support for initiatives is very important in making a demonstration of community buy-in to potential resources. A second point I would make is that what we do is we bring in these visiting team members, and those visiting team members are both helpful from a technical advisory role of really helping you think about how to go from an idea to an actual specific project and how to design that idea so that it actually is eligible for some of the financial resources that are out there. And then again, when we're talking about partners like USDA Rural Development, like the Clean Energy Development Fund, like the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, there are a variety of resources out there. There are also programs, as I mentioned, for homeowners and businesses, right? Efficiency Vermont obviously has great incentive programs. Green Mountain Power has a number of different innovative programs. So the shape of those programs and the support for those programs is really to be determined as we engage the community and as we identify initiatives that the community wants to take on. I see other questions. Alice asking, will these initiatives come with some expense to the town? Again, this very much depends on what those initiatives look like. I think it's entirely possible that some of those initiatives will require some sort of skin in the game or financial resources from the municipality. It's also possible that some of those don't. When you're working at a business level or a homeowner level, probably not. But when you are working on a community initiative, there may be. But again, that's part of the conversation that happens at the community forum and the setting of priorities is what is the potential cost of one of these initiatives and what are the potential resources as part of this. I see George McNaughton asking a question about High Meadows Foundation. You know, I actually have on my schedule to sit down with the executive director, Gay Symington. She and I haven't connected yet. They are the type that I do think may be part of a visiting team. Obviously, Gay and some of her partners with the High Meadows Foundation have some great thoughts and resources. They've been very helpful in thinking about energy transformation and energy efficiency. And so I think they are an example of the type of potential partner we would bring into a community. So, other questions? I see we are beginning to wrap up in time here. You know, I'm quickly actually going to turn on the audio just in case somebody is trying. And the audio function that I'm turning on is actually called Q&A, which means that you sort of, there will be a hand signal that shows up, and you have to press the button on the hand signal to say that you want to ask a question, and then and then we will select you to speak. So I've just turned it on the Q&A mode in case anyone is on the phone and wants to participate by phone. Although it looks like all of our, oh, we do have a couple of phone participants. So, fiscal agent, George McNaughton, I think that's right, that becomes an issue after you identify the initiatives and start rolling up your sleeves and working to turn those initiatives into reality. It's possible that the municipality will have a role in that, but it's also possible that some other entities will have a role there. You know, with any type of project, there are a multitude of different financial structures to turn that project into a reality. So it's hard to say without knowing what those initiatives are. Other questions at this point? So is the process summarized in oh, you know what? Yes, I would say we will do some kind of a report back to the community. The other thing that we will do, and I should mention, there is the dashboard hosted by the Energy Action Network that is helpful in giving a community and households in a community a snapshot of what their energy use is. That dashboard will be an important tool for us as we embark on this project. So that as we engage in this community conversation, it's important to get a snapshot of where a community is at the beginning, and then depending on what initiatives emerge and what kind of participation there are from homes and businesses in this process, we will then do some measure of what kind of progress has happened in the community. an important part of this effort is really celebrating the work that a community does and really branding that work. You know, we look at what the city of Rutland has done as the solar city in New England, the solar capital of New England. As you think about your community and how to brand and recruit sort of new members of your community, we think that this climate economy model community program will be a helpful tool in sort of helping to rebrand, if that is an interest of a community, or market your community to businesses and to people who might be interested in moving. Okay, well, I very much appreciate everyone participating in this. I hope it was helpful. We will send out a survey and would welcome your feedback. And let me just finally go again to the last slide here. And I just want to emphasize, please be in touch with me via email, via phone, with your questions. We will post this webinar and the slide deck on our website, so that will be available as you talk to your community members about participating in this process. Please let us know how we can help and answer questions. All right, thank you so much.